BIONICLE, The Legend Reborn. Written by Greg Farsty. Recording by Dungeoneer Harold. Chapter 4. Tuma, leader of the Skrull, was feeling quite satisfied. He had returned to the city of Roxtus following the sack of Tejun, confident that his plans were proceeding. With that village and its oasis in his hands, the Agoria Barra Magna had lost their primary water source. No doubt they would turn on each other now in a fight over what water remained in the wastelands, making them easy pickings for his Skrull warriors. In one swift stroke, he would control the desert. To an outsider, it might have seemed a strange prize to covet. After all, what was there to Barra Magna? Nothing but scattered metallic shelters that towered hundreds of feet high, with Agori huddled inside them for protection against the wind and sand. Deposits of Exedian metal and other semi-valuable minerals here and there, precious little food or water. On the face of it, nothing a conqueror like Tuma would want. But the desert of Barra Magna offered one thing the Skrull desperately needed: space. No one other than the Skrull knew why they had first moved down from the north into the Black Spike Mountains. Their cities had been raided and destroyed by a race of warriors they had never encountered before. Shapeshifters who struck from the shadows and then disappeared. All of the Skrull's weapons and skill had proven of no use against this enemy. Finally, the Skrull were forced south, taking up residence in the long-abandoned city that became Roxtus. Here they were easily the most powerful tribe, but Tuma could not help looking behind. Would their enemies from the north follow them here? If so, how would the Skrull stop them? Fighting the shapeshifters in confined quarters would lead to a second disaster. The Skrull needed room to maneuver, vast tracts of open land they could force the foe to cross. Only then would they have a fighting chance to survive. Tuma could have simply warned the Agoria Barra Magna of what the Skrull had encountered, and made some mutual defense agreement with the other villages. But that was not the Skrull way of doing things. No. Instead, he plotted, manipulated, and steadily weakened the villages until he was sure they could not stand against his army. Then the Skrull struck at the village of Viteru, destroying it, and now Tejun had fallen as well. Complete surrender by the Agori would follow any day now. Then Tuma would rule not just a city, but an empire, and it would be an empire he would keep, no matter who might dare to attack it. A pair of bone hunters stood guard amid the ruins of Tejun. They were not happy. Their role in life was to ride, hunt, rob, and kill. It was the nature of their people to take from those who were weaker. Bone hunters saw themselves as akin to the cruel wind that blew out of the Black Spike Mountains, raising sandstorms that blinded and killed those foolish enough to be caught out in the desert. Through their hunts, they eliminated those Glotorian and Agori who were not fit to survive. That had changed since the alliance with the Skrull. Now they had to take orders from Tuma and his lieutenants, even if doing so meant standing around and watching over a pile of ashes. As it turned out, the bone hunters were right. They were not made for guard duty. If they had been, they might have heard Akar before he sprang up behind them and knocked their heads together. Instead, both slumped to the ground, unconscious. Kina appeared behind Akar. "You have all the fun," she chided him. "I get the next two." Akar didn't smile. "Let's move. We need to warn the villages about the Skrull and bone hunters uniting." Kina nodded. "And that we have a traitor on the inside." Madanui and Barracks emerged from the cave, supporting Gresh between them. The young Glotorian had his arm in a makeshift sling of vine. "How are you holding up?" Madanui asked Gresh. "I'm fine," said the wounded Glotorian. "You don't need to baby me. But I could use a new weapon. The Skrull shredded my shield." Akar and Kina both looked at their own weapons, each heavily damaged by the recent battle with the bone hunters. "Get in line," said Kina. Barracks reached for Kina's trident. "I might be able to." Kina yanked it away. "Don't even think about it." "Wait," said Akar. He turned to Madanui. "What you did with the Vorok stinger and Click, could it work with my sword and her trident?" Madanui reached up and touched the metal surface of his mask. "I don't know. This mask gave me new life, but I still don't completely understand its power. I am certain it only works on things that are, or were, alive, like the stinger." "No problem," said Barracks. Most Clitorian weapons have bone or claw cores. Collected a few, have you? Said Kina. Madanui took Akar's sword in hand. It's worth a try, anyway. The others watched as he raised the sword to his brow. Together, as one mind, Madanui said, so softly they could barely hear him. Then the sword began to glow, its substance shifting into a larger, more formidable version of its old shape. When the process was done, Madanui handed the sword back to the amazed Akar. The Glotorian hefted it, testing the balance of the weapon and admiring the quality of the blade. Suddenly the sword glowed red-hot in his hand. Flames leapt to life along the blade and shot from the tip, scorching a sand dune nearby. What in? Akar said. Madanui was not surprised. Of course, he said. Fire is your elemental power. It is the heart of your tribe. The mask of life has simply ignited it. You have become a true Toa. Akar had no idea what the term meant, but from the way Madanui said, it was obviously meant as a compliment. He put his hand on Madanui's shoulder and said simply, Thank you, friend. Madanui looked down at the sand and then back up at Akar. Strange. I have worn many titles, been called many things, but never friend. Kina stepped forward, holding her trident out to Madanui. Me next. Madanui took the weapon from her. I will do what I can for you, but then I must continue my journey. I must find a way to free my people. You're not going to help us? Asked Gresh. No, said Madanui. I have my own battles to fight. Madanui, trust me, said Akar. I've seen you fight. You're quick, you have some style, but you're not ready. Stay with us a while, and I'll teach you everything I know. Madanui considered the proposal. He did not know where his destiny would lead him, and still suspected it was a path he was meant to walk on his own. But this was a world of unknown dangers, and here he had already found a rare treasure, friends who would fight beside him. Having done that, could he really go back to being alone again? He looked at Akar, his answer written in his eyes. The veteran Glotorian smiled and clasped Madanui's hand. Welcome to the team, Otherworlder, Kina said. Now let's get to work. Akar kept his word. As they traveled toward the village of Tessara, he began schooling Madanui in the art of combat. The first lesson was not fighting moves, but the power of observation. By studying the subtle movements of a bird in flight, it was possible to predict which direction it would turn. The same could be done in battle, to guess an opponent's next move. As night fell on the second day of their journey, Barracks was in the driver's seat of Kina's chariot, with Gresh riding along beside. Kina, Akar, and Madanui walked. Unfair, said Gresh. I score this clawed-out new weapon, and Madanui tells me I've got awesome Toa powers, whatever those are, but none of you will let me test them out. Kina smiled. She had been after Gresh for a while to lighten up. For a young Glotorian, he had always been much too grim and serious. It seemed that he had taken her words to heart. You mean like this? She said, laughing as she thrust her trident forward. 3 jets of water shot from the tines of the weapon, striking a pile of boulders and blasting the rocks to bits. Gresh raised his new shield with his good arm. Come on, just a little test. Patience is the first lesson in becoming a great Glotorian, said Akar. Oh, I think this is pretty great, said Kina, firing another blast of water from her trident. Akar stepped right in front of her water jet, fire sword raised. As the water struck his blade, it turned to steam. Guess it's a standoff, said Kina. A sudden blast of sand struck the cloud of steam, blowing it away. Kina and Akar turned to see Gresh hurling a mini cyclone from his shield at the ground. The concentrated air was hurling the sand aloft with amazing force. Looks like I can blow you both away, Gresh said, smiling. Kina's expression brightened. Better yet, why not combine our powers? Enough, said Akar. There's more to winning a fight than fancy weapons, and let me tell you, Madanui isn't the only one that could use a few tips. You've got raw talent, Gresh, and a lot of courage, but that will only take you so far. Kina, I saw your last match with Vastus in Tessara. You let your guard down, and he almost took your head off. Barracks burst out laughing. Ha! Kina, he got you there. Kina whipped around and smacked Barracks out of the driver's seat with her trident. Gresh leaned forward to grab the wheel and keep the vehicle from veering off course. Akar stepped forward and grabbed the shaft of Kina's weapon. Stop it, both of you. Pay attention and you might actually learn something. Like this, Akar said, as he turned on Madanui and slashed downward with his fire blade. Madanui barely blocked the blow with his own sword, but the impact knocked him backward into Kina. Click flew from his shoulder and landed on Kina's arm. See, said Akar, you have to learn to read your opponent's next move before it happens. Kina wasn't paying attention. She was eyeing the beetle on her arm warily. Watch it, she said to Click. I'm warning you, I'll bite back. Click opened his pincers as if to snap at her, but before he could do so, Akar had grabbed it by the shell. The Glotorian lifted the beetle into the air. Study your opponent's fight style, Akar continued. Find their weakness, then use it against them, if you can. Click snapped his pincers together angrily. Akar tossed the insect back to Madanui. The beetle settled contentedly on his shoulder once more. Dawn brought a return of stifling heat to the desert. The group had been spending the days under whatever shelter they could find, but this morning there was no need to hunt for a cave or a rock outcropping. As they came over a rise, they could see 2 villages and a large patch of jungle. Great trees dominated the landscape, with vines trailing everywhere. A Glotorian arena sat in the center, separating the villages, but it did not look at all like the one Madanui had seen on Vulcanus. This arena was constructed of wood and vines, which formed a latticework roof over the fighting arena. Where are we? Asked Madanui. The twin villages of Tusara, said Akar. Gresh's home. The sound of cheering drifted up from the villages. Sounds like a match is about to start, said Gresh. Vastus must be fighting today. Not if I can help it, said Akar. The others looked at him, surprised both by his words and the fierce tone in which he said them. The Vulcanus Glotorian ignored them and started marching toward Tusara. After a moment, the rest of the group followed along behind. In the arena, Metis sat with Ranu and other Agori in the stands, watching as the Glotorian were announced. The main match for the day pitted the very experienced Vastus of Tusara against the reigning champion of all Glotorian, Terex of Tejun. Had the great tournament in Ateru taken place this year, it was possible Terex would have been robbed of his title by someone else, most likely a Skrull Glotorian. But the Skrull attack on the arena had brought the tournament to a violent halt, so Terex remained the official champion. Following the main match, there would be training matches between some of the newer Glotorian Metis was managing. That had brought Ranu here, in hopes of finding a new fighter for Vulcanus. Akar and his team had reached the outskirts of the village by now. Barracks lagged behind, glancing uneasily from side to side. Why so jumpy, thief? Asked Kina. Rip someone off around here? Or just looking for a Skrull to tell our plans to? I'm not a traitor or a thief, Barracks answered, and he added nervously, but I have done a little collecting around here, so best to lie low. His eyes chanced upon an axe hanging from a nearby doorway, and he reached for it, saying, Oh, I like that. Kina slapped his hand away. This is not the time, Barracks. Got that? Metis spotted Akar, Gresh, and Madanui approaching. He rose from his seat, smiling broadly. What a surprise! Welcome, friends. Isn't this great? A sold-out crowd. I knew pitting Vastus against Terex would pack them in. Madanui, I hope your appearance means you're ready to... Akar cut him off. It's over. Over? Said Ranu, confused. He turned to Metis. What is he talking about? Metis shrugged. Who knows with him? He might still be upset about that match with Strack. Or maybe he's been out in the sun too long. I'll talk to him. The fight promoter walked over to Akar. Listen, Akar. With all due respect, you don't have any authority here. This is a match between Tusara and Tejun, and you're too late anyway. Metis gestured toward the arena. The match had indeed already started. Terex had fired his Thornax launcher, but Vastus dove aside before the explosive sphere could strike him. It slammed into the ground and went off, sending a spray of shattered rock into the air. He hit the ground and rolled, ending up on his feet and firing his own launcher at Terex. The Tejun Glotorian saw the Thornax coming at him, but too late to move aside. He brought his weapon up to block it, but the explosive impact still sent him reeling. Akar had seen more than enough. He stepped up to the railing, even as Metis tried to block his way. "Wait, what are you doing?" asked Metis, his tone a little frantic. Akar might have already seen his best days, but Metis knew he was still a Glatorian that others listened to. If he spoke out against the Glatorian system, who knew what might happen? Gresh, Kina, and Madanui moved to Akar's side, pushing Metis out of the way. Akar leaned over the rail, his eyes scanning the crowd of Agori and the two Glatorian fighters. "Listen to me," Akar said. "All fighting between Glatorian must stop. Our real enemy is out there, in the desert." The response of the villagers was shouts of, "Sit down, you fool!" and "Mind your own business." As serious as Glatorian matches were, they were also one of the few sources of entertainment for Agori, beings who spent each day just trying to scrape together enough resources to survive, needed whatever distraction they could get, and weren't in any hurry to give it up. It was the voice of Terex that silenced the shouting. "Quiet," said the Glatorian. "Let him talk." Vastus moved to stand beside Terex. "I agree. Speak, Akar." "Thank you, Vastus, and thank you, Terex," Akar said. "Now listen to me, everyone. The Bone Hunters and the Skrull have formed an alliance." This provoked a chorus of disbelief from the crowd. Some threw their hands up into the air and turned away. One Agori could be heard saying, "Why are they making us listen to some old loser's fantasies? Get on with the match." "It's true," said Kina. "Terex, our village has been destroyed. I saw it with my own eyes. We arrived too late to help. The Agori who were there escaped, probably out into the sands, but it's gone. All of it."
"Impossible," Terex whispered. "I should have been there. I told Metis this match was a bad idea, especially when you would be in Volcanus. But Tejun needs the food that was in stake here, and now you say there is no more Tejun."
"Kina speaks the truth," said Gresh. "Tejun is gone, and it's just the beginning." "We must unite," said Akar. "Time is running out." As soon as he said it, Akar knew he had made a mistake. The Agori, before simply angry and skeptical, had now become a fearful mob. Who could blame them? Many of them had seen firsthand the aftermath of Bone Hunter raids and the Skrull destruction of Ateru. They had witnessed Glatorian running before the might of the Skrull army. Why should they believe Glatorian could save them now that their two worst enemies had joined together? Ranu chose that moment to step forward. He held his hands out to the crowd, gesturing for them to sit down and be silent. "Calm yourselves," he said. "Your village leaders will know what is best for you. We will do as we always have." Madanui could no longer stay quiet. He knew all too well the dangers of underestimating an enemy, or expecting that the old methods of dealing with a problem would always work. It was thinking like that which had cost him a universe. "Your old ways will not work," Madanui told the crowd. "You are facing a unified army now. I've seen this before. They will not stop until your people are destroyed." "This is crazy," said Metis. "It can't be as bad as all that. Maybe the Skrull and the Bone Hunters just happened to hit Tejun at the same time. There might not be any alliance at all. We could be getting all upset over nothing." "Nothing?" said Terex, outraged. "You call the destruction of my village nothing? Be glad you are not a Glatorian, Metis, or I would have your head for that." Ranu turned to Akar, his voice a harsh whisper. "We have no weapons, Akar. Not any that can stop the Skrull. You know that. How can we fight back?" "Enough!" yelled Akar, as he thrust his weapon into the air. Fire erupted from the blade, lancing high into the morning sky. As one, the crowd gasped and started to back away. "Yeah, we kind of thought that would get your attention," said Kina. "Toa Madanui has offered to help us build up our defenses," said Akar. "With him at our side, I know we can prevail." Ranu snorted in disbelief. "Toa Madanui? Why should we trust this stranger?" The crowd echoed Ranu's sentiments. Madanui understood how they felt. After all, he was not one of them. From what he had seen, the Agori lived a hard life. Most likely, trust would not come easily to them, even in the best of circumstances. and this was far from the best of circumstances. Terex, give Matanui your weapon, Akar said. The Tejun Glatorian stepped forward reluctantly and handed Matanui his crude sword. What is he going to do with it? Show you the power you already possess, said Akar. Matanui brought Terex's weapon to his brow. As soon as the weapon touched the mask of life, it transformed, becoming a far more ornate and powerful-looking sword. Terex and the Agori looked on, stunned. I don't believe it, Terex said, as Matanui handed him his new weapon. It's incredible. Akar turned back to the crowd of villagers. What more proof do you need? The time to unite the villages has come. If we stand together, we will win. The Agori burst into cheers, all but Ranu. He still looked unconvinced. Gesturing once more for silence on receiving it, he looked up at Akar. If we agree, do you, Glatorian, and this Matanui swear to stay and protect us? Kina, Gresh, Akar, Terex, and Vastus nodded their assent. Then all eyes turned to Matanui. You do not have to ask for the allegiance of the Glatorian. You know where our loyalties lie, Akar replied to Ranu. Then he turned to Matanui. But we cannot speak for you. I will not pretend I have anything left to teach you. But I'll ask, as a friend, will you help us? Matanui reached out and locked arms with Akar. Then as a friend, I will stay. The 5 Glatorian formed a circle around their new ally, raising their weapons in the air. Filled with the hope of victory, they cried out, We fight together! Their shout echoed across the desert, ringing from the mountains and riding the wind across the dunes. Somewhere, a bone hunter's rock steed cocked its head, wondering at the noise. The beast pawed the ground, every sense alert, eager to charge. For though it could not understand the words the Glatorian had spoken, it knew well the meaning of the tone. It was a battle cry. End of chapter 4.